Good morning. This video is actually for the group I belong to. It is a support group for scapegoated children of narcissists. And what I often do is provide little bits of information and suggestions and feedback for people who have questions about how to cope as a scapegoated child of a narcissist. And what you're looking at here is a piece of artwork that I actually really love because it has all these gray rocks in it, and that is actually a term that is used in the dialogue when dealing with narcissistic personality disorder, sociopathy, or narcopathy. So somebody recently reached out to me and said, I'm having a really hard time with my no contact rule. And that's completely understandable. I mean, this is in response to that particular person. It's completely understandable that you would have a problem with the no contact rule that you've set up. So no contact is a protective mechanism. After years of abuse and years of manipulation and years of being treated sort of like a second-class citizen in your own family dynamic, what happens is the hood comes off. The revelations are very apparent, and you suddenly realize that you are the scapegoated child of a narcissist. I was trying to zoom in on on one of the gray rocks. This is actually my favorite one right here. This one right here. But anyway, so what gray rock is that if you are ever in a place like at a family picnic or some kind of situation where the family will be there, you go gray rock, meaning that you don't show any emotion, you don't really show any interest in being their supply. And what it means by being their supply is that they will use you to try to make themselves look better. They will use you they want to make you the scapegoat as for all of their pathology, for all of their fear, for all of their issues. It's easy to just have one person as the scapegoat. As a scapegoated child of a narcissist and a scapegoated adult as a result of being the scapegoated child of a narcissist, I can completely understand how frustrating, challenging, and depressing it really is to follow the no contact rule. So, and in all honesty, I am just as, human as everyone else out there. And I recently had to break my own no contact rule because the narcissist owes me money. So money is easy, in my opinion, because the narcissist has made it very clear to me over many years. Specifically, there was one instance in 2013 where she took me aside and sat me down at her kitchen table and said, I'm done with this relationship. I don't ever want to be your mother again. I don't want you to be my daughter. This relationship is over. Of course, because I didn't know about narcopathy and sociopathy and narcissistic personality disorder at the time, I didn't realize that I was her scapegoat. I didn't realize that I was her supply. I didn't realize that she needed to play these kind of manipulative, distressing games with me in order to make herself feel better. I didn't realize any of that 4 years ago at the time. So what I did was, like I said in a previous podcast to the group, this was like a punch to the gut to me. This was like a knife in the back. And of course, I cried and got very upset, like most people would, like a normal person would, who has the ability to feel authentically and feels, authentic emotions and is empathetic. I felt really bad. I was like, well, what have I done? Why are you saying these things? So in retrospect, though, I realized that this was just part of her personality disorder. this is what she does. And so because a personality disorder is not really a choice, it's something that a person just is, where they don't have actual authentic feeling. They use manipulation tactics and lies, and they often use intimidation and fear-mongering in order to get sympathy from other people. Now, all these years later, I realize I'm dealing with, a person who is not capable of having real emotion. So I went no contact at the advice of my doctors, who said, look, we all know that your inflammatory illness that you have is a result of, an unseen amount of trauma and stress that was placed on you in utero. This is a medical diagnosis that's based on trauma and stress, where your body is actively fighting against anxiety that was placed on you from an outside source. And when you're an infant and you're in utero, that outside source is a parent, obviously. So, in order for my own health and just for my own anxiety, and also for my relationship with my future husband, it was absolutely imperative that I go no contact with the narcissist who's been, committing these sort of, small acts of subterfuge and sabotage against me my entire life. However, she does owe me around $600. And so I broke the no contact rule to say, despite the fact that, I must remain no contact with you in order to preserve my own health, you're going to have to pay this debt. I mean, you just have to pay this debt. She's received, an inheritance from my grandmother, which she uses, to buy new cars and take trips. And it's, she doesn't seem to have a problem with it. She was able to quit her job. I think she can afford, just under $600. So this message is actually for the person in my group that said, I'm really depressed and really sad. The holidays are coming. I feel like I'm about ready to lose it. I'm thinking of going ahead and breaking my no contact rule in order to just have family to be around me during the holidays. And I'd just like to remind you that your family is using you as supply. If you're a scapegoated child of a narcissist, or you're a scapegoated victim of narcissistic personality disorder within your DDT, which is your drama triangle within your family of origin, then just because you've already chosen this group and you've come aboard this group and you've been accepted, and I as an administrator have to I really need to encourage you to stay away from narcissists and to stay away from sociopaths and to stay away from narcopaths. They're just using you as supply. They don't really understand the concept of true, authentic family. And if for whatever reason you really, truly do need to hang out with them, then simply go what's called gray rock. And gray rock is just where you don't really show any visible emotion to the gameplay and to the fact that that they're probably going to use you as supply for manipulation. So that is my advice to the person who reached out to me and said, I'm really, really depressed. I really want to break my no contact rule and get in touch with my abuser. I would highly recommend not to. You will only walk away from that experience. You will only walk away from that holiday experience feeling like, okay, what have I done wrong now? You will only walk away feeling as if you are a second-class citizen. You will only walk away from it feeling abused and worse than you did when you walked into it. The only reason that I broke my no contact rule is because the narcissist owes me money, and there's simply no reason that she can't pay me back. So, and even then, through the strong advice of friends and family, I was told, do not reach out to her. But I just, I have spent my entire life allowing narcissists and sociopaths to take my money, abuse me, kick me around. And I just feel like I'm, through this process of belonging to this group, which is Scapegoats for Narcissists, scapegoated children of narcissists. I just feel that I've really found some strength in me that I didn't have before. And so I just, plus I have a very supportive future husband who is, completely backing me, except for the part where he's like, stay away from the narcissist. So the only thing I can say is, take my advice. And of course, I should take my own advice. But the fact is that, a simple email saying you owe me this debt is not, and then expecting, and then just having no expectations, just putting it to God, putting it to the universe, just putting it out there. Maybe the narcissist and her proxy, those are the people that, are around her. Maybe they will convince her to do the right thing. It's doubtful, but, whatever. The fact is that during this process, as you discover what being a scapegoated child of a narcissist is all about, you don't want to become cynical. You don't want to lose that sense of empathy that makes you you. Unfortunately, it was your truly empathetic nature that allowed the narcissist to come in and just wreak havoc in your life. But you don't want to lose that sense of innocence. You don't want to lose that sense of wonderment. You don't want to lose that sense of like, look, people are genuinely good. Generally, people are good. For instance, when I went public with what my narcissist did to me, I received so much feedback from so many people who were like, I too have a narcissistic parent. I have narcissistic siblings. I understand the abuse. This is actually quite normal. I would say probably 1 out of every 3 families, maybe even more, have a scapegoated child of narcissistic parents. So this is not, uncommon at all. This is something that is very, very relevant to our society and to the family dynamic. And especially in authoritarian, super hyper-religious families, narcissism and abuse and trauma and anxiety often come as a result of authoritarian upbringings. So I just had to break my own rule for 1 second and say, hey, look, you owe me a little bit of money. It's not a lot, and who knows, maybe by actually scratching off a check and paying me the money that she owes me, she'll actually feel better about herself and start to see that her narcissistic personality disorder is something that she should get under control. See, that's the empath in me, throwing out hope for someone who wants to be a good person. The narcissist wants to be a good person. It's just that they can't be. It's just that they're incapable of it because they have a personality disorder. So I just wrote her an email that said, despite the fact that, doctors and friends and people around me have said that I absolutely must go no contact with you in order to preserve my health, I am breaking that no contact rule, my own no contact rule, simply to ask you to pay this debt. And then you just leave it to God. And that's really all I have to say at this point. So I appreciate the person who reached out to me from our group. The group has been incredibly instrumental in helping me tell my story. I love to be able to share all the little tidbits of my life and circumstances and situations that helped me to understand that I am a scapegoated child of a narcissistic family. And I would like you to just really absorb this, protect yourself from the narcissistic abusers in your life. And like I said before, just give it to God. All right, this is Julie. Talk to you later.